Hello!
Hello, AOS fans!
It's the agents of Harrowdeep.
Splosh. Bloop.
Splosh.
They're underwater.
They are indeed underwater in this one.
Yeah,
we are in the
Splosh, you're gonna hear
shadow.
that a lot.
Well, I guess, yeah.
And bizarrely, though, no fish elves.
No fish shells in this one, but we are moving realm. That's one of the big first things about it, really.
I mean, the first thing I really noticed was that it's blue.
Oh, yeah, it is. There's a very blue hue
Kind
about
of gone
you.
for blue hue about you. I suppose the first two are kind of silver grey, and the next one's a sort of
the ambery kind of. You got your brand. It's your light goldy brand.
orangey brand.
Orange brand.
And this is blue.
This is very blue.
So that immediately was like, oh, this is different. And then, as you said, pretty much first line of the thing is that it's moved realm.
Yeah, it's now in this dungeon sort of underneath the sea labyrinth in the Ulgu realm.
I want to know how that dungeon works. Whether is it still?
Someone opens the door and be like, oh God!
Exactly.
Someone's opened the door again.
Is it wet in there? Would you wouldn't want to open a trap door, would you? Who knows? I'm intrigued to know whether they try and tie it into the lore, or whether they. This does seem to be. We did make a video about whether we wanted a reboot, or saying that we wanted a reboot. This feels like to me like a mini reboot. So maybe they're not even going to bother tying it together. Yeah, I suspect they probably will, because they always do.
I mean, their last attempt at moving to another realm was it's in a mountain that's alive. Make whatever you want of that.
Yeah, so they probably will sort of tie it. But I feel like this is a big step into the unknown. I'm not being an AOS aficionado. I don't know much about Ulgu, other than the fact that it is the land of shadow.
Land of shadow and flame. No, actually, it's not.
Shadow,
it's
flame,
not. What are you on about, Gandalf? Land of shadow and puddles.
Yeah,
it's just not quite as dangerous.
So I'm interested to find out more about Ulgu. Interested to see whether that means we might get a whole new faction of models for coming forward. But we already know what the two factions are, but we hadn't really seen very many models until today. We've seen the bird and the kind of grot catcher Gickit
thingy,
but we have seen all the models now, and I don't know what you think, Pete, but I really like them. Particularly the Stormcast. Now I know I'm a bit of a sucker for a Stormcast.
Even I like these Stormcasts,
but I really like the hooded lady.
They are. We're just bringing them up here so we can look at them. The only thing I don't like about the hooded lady is I think she could do with not having a hood on. I think she would look better without the hood.
She wouldn't be a very good hooded lady without.
She wouldn't be.
I like a hood in my tropes.
I like your standard hood. It's always nice to have a nice
in my fantasy tropes. I like a hood. On super high def or whatever, the hooded lady's face is a bit odd. She looks a bit like Fessick.
All of the paint jobs look quite bad. I mean, I'm saying this in context that I could never paint that well.
I don't think the paint jobs look bad. I just think the photos, like I've noticed with my own, often the photos bring out all the imperfections. It just looks a bit grainy on the screen. I suspect probably in the flesh, it's probably in the plastic. It's probably
GW done that a lot though with their models. The paint jobs on that they show off in promos look. I'm not going to say terrible because, again, their quality level, my quality level, but they do look a lot worse than you're going to see some semi-serious painters do.
I suppose, at the end of the day, they're functional and it's their job.
Exactly.
And they've got to get it done.
You don't even need to paint models after all. So,
whereas some of the professionals, actually, that's their job. Just to paint that one model in taking 5 years to do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, true. I feel like Oberon has been revamped. He's now taken his helmet off and he's got a big beard.
Yeah,
and he's still wielding a chuffing great hammer.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed the Oberon-like qualities, but yes, there is. He is very Oberon
about him.
There's a boar in his not a bear.
There's a bear.
A boar in his.
There's a bar.
And his armour in his down the bottom of his knee pad, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a little nod.
Is that a bear or is that a
not
boar?
I said boar. I know I said bear, but
you're a boar. That's a bear.
I meant boar.
So I like that model, quite a dynamic pose, but I think the Archer's my favourite.
I'm not going to lie, I think the Archer is my favourite too.
It's very dynamic, and he's got a bow which inherently makes him approximately 32 times cooler.
And he's got Sam the Eagle as his armour plate.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's just all good things
I'm
about
going to paint mine blue.
Blue.
Like Sam the Eagle.
And then there's the Eagle as well, which is obviously seen, which is all right. I mean, I'm not particularly excited by the bird, but
it's funny, isn't it? I struggle with.
It's not funny. It's a bird.
I struggle with the GW. Serious. I mean, they're very good sculptors, but the animals. I don't know whether it's because there's more frame of reference in the real world.
I think that's it.
But the animals just don't ever really look quite right to me. I can't think of any single animal model that I like. in the whole of Underworlds.
There's not very many.
The crab.
The crab, maybe that's not particularly a real animal.
It's quite
a
alien.
giant, massive thing.
Alien,
yeah. And then obviously we've got the cunning crew as well.
Yeah.
I love this orc model with the cage on his head and the trident thing and the bird perched on his shoulder.
Doesn't seem terribly practical, but I suppose
that's going to be a bastard to paint.
Yeah.
I'll guarantee there'll
Probably
be 100
awkward to put together.
Hundreds and hundreds of people will stick that model together so they can get their games in, then they'll come and spray it, and they'll be like, oh god.
Hopefully that bit just lifts off.
Well, it will. I'm not going to stick mine on.
A single piece. But I love the trident. Again, that kind of points to the water, I suppose.
I have realised because these are push-fit models, there's a very likely chance that cage won't... It'll be part of the front and there'll be part of the back. And oh god!
I've just thought. Do you think he's going to be really disappointed when he realises that isn't like a bell jar?
It's not water. Dive underwater. So I like that model. There's another big chunky dude with a big man catcher sort of thing on a chain. So I like that. Man catcher is
definitely a theme of this warband.
I do like the savage sort of pointy jutting bits of armour all over the place.
Yeah.
There's then 3 other random blokes. One that looks like very much like a hobgoblin.
Yeah, he's a definite hobgrot, isn't he?
Yeah, with the flat nose. He looks actually a bit more like a Muppet. He looks like the monster Muppet.
So we've got Sam the Eagle on one side, and
then we've got Gickit and the other one as well. They've taken a really bad shot of the third one because you can't really tell what he's holding. It's very hard to tell what he's got in his hand there in the angle of that shot. They should have turned him 180, I feel. But anyway, the models look fantastic.
He looks like he's just squeezed his tube of paint out.
It kind of does look...
Oh, no.
It's everywhere. We've all done it. We've all lost our paint at one point or another. So the models themselves, they look really nice.
Yeah, I do like those.
So we've all been feverishly looking at all the photos, the EF photos that they provided and any of the freeze frames that people can snatch from the video to see. And there's...
Sorry, I'm just going to interject. It's hysterically funny, I find, that last week we were like,
I hate it.
Are we losing our love of Underworld? And then 2 weeks later they bring out this video and we're just like pouring over it.
I'm trying to temper my excitement for this. I'm trying to remember the reasons why I was angry with it before and what I was disliking about it before. And I'm trying to make sure I keep that as a frame reference when I look at this. Right. It is very hard not to get excited by shiny models, though. And
I think, as we'll go through this, I think some of the things they've done, it's almost like they were aware of the issues that they had.
Could be, yeah.
And they've tried to fix them.
It's like they saw it coming.
But we'll talk about that now.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know that it's in the realm of shadow in Ulgu. And that it's underwater, so we've got this nice bluish hue about everything. Mm-hmm. One of the things they do mention in there is that there's going to be a new play style, which sounds... I mean, it's not Vanguard, because obviously they have Vanguard. They didn't mention Vanguard at all. But they've got this new play style called Rivals format.
Rivals. It's like Pop Stars, the Rivals.
Yeah.
Which one of us is going to be Girls Aloud and which one's going to be the other band?
Well, I don't like having any girls allowed in my...
No girls allowed in the studio?
Not in the studio. That's not true though, Loz. You can come in whenever you like. But they had this Rivals format, which they say will make Underworlds more accessible. One of the key points we did argue about, and said we weren't happy about, by having pre-made decks. Now, as has been pointed out in our Patreon discussion, pre-made decks isn't a new thing. They have done that before with their warband specific set of cards. However, as was also then counter-argued in that those weren't technically pre-made decks, they were just enough cards to make a valid sized deck. There wasn't necessarily any kind of theme or synergy.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. They not all warband decks have been created equally over the years.
Exactly.
So it would be interesting to see. I hope that they've put some effort into balancing it, but we very limited information, so we don't know yet. But I'm quite excited by that because I think I would love to play a game where I could just grab a balanced deck off the shelf and play it, and then I think we would be far more likely to make content that way. Yeah,
because a lot of the other games we have the benefit that you can just pick it up, play it out, like Fireteam, things like that. There's almost zero prep, whereas there was always that, I need to make a deck and then I've got to go find the cards.
Because I know some people out there absolutely love the deck building. Yeah. I think I was listening to the Path to Glory podcast, and they were talking about that they don't need like Vanguard because you haven't got all the cards and everything. And they're clearly making those decks and making the most efficient deck possible is obviously the thing that they really derive a lot of enjoyment from. But I think the game obviously my personal opinion, but the game is at its strongest when it's being actually played. And I really like some of the mechanical interactions on the board, and I get a bit fed up with all the different card ones. So I'm really excited by the prospect of just balanced decks where actually it is all going to be about what happens on the table, rather than I've chosen an objective that actually doesn't really work.
It's actually a bit rubbish, or I didn't buy that warband, so I haven't got ready for action, so I'm inherently always going to be a bit of a back foot there or something.
So because you can effectively get, I mean, not completely, but you could effectively, we talked about this before, but you could effectively go into a battle knowing you've got, well, not knowing you've got no chance, but not knowing you've got no chance because you haven't created a very great deck. But that should be, hopefully, if they've done it right, a thing of the past. Yeah,
so I'm really looking forward to this new Rivals setup. They also mentioned that obviously the Championship format isn't going anywhere, and Rivals is just another way to play it. And also they mentioned that there are going to be these new Grand Alliance cards, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah, there's two things to unpack there. One is I'm intrigued how Rivals is going to match up with Championship. Because are you going to be able to pick the Rivals card in with the Championship thing? I don't know.
I assume so, but it's hard to tell.
So that's one thing. But Grand Alliance specific, I think, is quite a neat idea, and I think that's a good move. It will give some inherent restriction, but also open up some ideas, or possibilities for other warbands to mix and match cards. Whether they'll retrofit to old warbands, I'm suspecting not. Sure. I don't think they will, because they'd have to list a document. They have to make a document for a start off with. God, good at that. I don't think they will. I think it's basically this. It's this going forward now, and I wonder whether this is, if they're not going to explicitly say we're not using those warbands anymore. I think. They kind of started to nudge people out the door a bit with the hunter quarry mechanic and stuff when you didn't have warbands that had any hunters or quarries, which meant inherently they were kind of a little bit on the back foot with some of those card selections, and maybe this is just that final, and they've kind of broken away completely with going to a totally different world. And I just feel like maybe they're still going to support them, but I think it's just another step away from using the old warbands. So looking at the main picture then, which is very exciting. They didn't give us much, but it's enough to get me slightly drooling. I mean, the boards, the colours, I love the blues and the sea tones. Yes, I think they do look great on there. I'm a little bit worried about what they might look like in the flesh, whether it might be a bit too dark, but we'll see. It's also going to look a bit odd having a sea board right up next to a Beastgrave board. No, that is true, That's a bit weird. Maybe the Beastgrave is in a bath. But if they've got some of these extra new things, then we're going to see very many old boards. That's something else to consider, because they alluded to it in the text, and there are these shadowy areas. Yes, that'll make people invulnerable, not being attacked and things like that. So it's interesting. Might be a thing for ranged. Could be, maybe if you're at certain places and certain things happen. One interesting thing I do notice from looking at the board is, we just talked about the alliance cards and things. There's no obvious separate set of cards there. You can see all of the fighters cards, you can see the power deck, you can see the objectives deck, but there's no third deck there for alliance cards at all. So I think we can sort of assume that the alliance cards are just going to be cards that go across certain factions that just go into your power deck. I would assume so. I've noticed that the faction symbol, you can just see it just below the cards on the fighter cards. So they obviously, that is what denotes their faction. Whether they're also on the ploys and things, I can't see those there. I don't think they are. Very hard to make out. I don't think that's interesting. It's good to see that the cards are in the new style, like they were in the starter box. But one interesting change is that the backs of the cards have changed, and that is really interesting. How are you going to play? You're going to have to get card sleeves, aren't you? You're going to have to get opaque sleeves to do everything. And I can see that ticking off a lot of people, because granted, if you go to a tournament, you have to sleeve your cards anyway, just because that's generally the safest way to play it. But if you just want to play a casual game, but you want to play a championship casual game with a friend, you're going to have these two different, but you're going to then have to sleeve your cards for that. And I know there'll be people saying, well, you just don't. It's just don't cheat, but it's going to be hard to not know at some point sometimes where you can see the next card. I mean, everybody sleeves their cards apart from me anyway, I think. So that might be not an issue. I think it's going to annoy some people. It's very Games Workshop. It's like Pokemon had the same backs for decades. Magic the Gathering had the same backs for decades. That's how you do it with the collectible card game. You don't change your back. Yes, you might have sort of late 90s retro styling and it looks a bit naff, but you just have to go with it because you've basically got
because that's what you did.
GW, 4 seasons, bollocks to that, we're changing them.
Yeah, we're going to change it all around now. All change, please.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind the new covers on the backs. No. They kind of look, from what I can see on there, they kind of just look a bit funky with some more hex design on them and things, and they are slightly different now. So you can tell by looking at the backs clearly. But then you could before, one was gold and one was sort of greyish blue.
Really so any major difference.
I just gain anything.
That's a really intriguing decision to me, and again, kind of suggests to me maybe they're trying to distance themselves from the.
They're trying to have a bit of a reset in the
old versions, but they have said Championship is still up and running, so it's a mystery.
One of the biggest shockers I noticed in this version of the game, as I look at that picture, is the magic dice are now red.
Yeah,
rather than blue.
I actually quite like that red colour.
Yeah, it's not a bad colour. It looks a bit like a Mephiston red, dark reddish, slight bluish red, maybe.
Yeah, looks like corn red to me. But anyway,
could be.
So something you pointed out is they're not showing double-sided wound counters, or we don't know. But they haven't shown
only one side.
Yeah, yes. But I think in the previous iterations they did show the double, but they have showed double-sided activation tokens, which would suggest to me that the wound counters are single-sided, and they've got they've shown both sides of the glory tokens as well. So I think they have only single-sided wound tokens, which is interesting.
Again, it's like it completely goes against the previous seasons and all the icon mechanics. They've just suddenly gone, actually, we're not going to give you anything to track that anymore. So maybe they're just assuming or hoping that you're not going to bother with those versions still. You're just going to move on to this version.
But they have got double-sided guard tokens by the looks of things.
They do, and that's a very interesting little intriguing change that they've made there.
Yeah, so the guard, one side is the same as the old one. The other side has got a shield with like a lightning-y type arrow through it.
Or a crack, maybe.
A crack, which I think, if you turn it one way up, I think it's the projected sales figures for Games Workshop.
It does look a bit like an arrow.
Going up, generally upwards.
It does.
But what do we think that is?
And the internet's already awash with thousands of ideas of people who claim to know the answer or are wondering what it could mean and all the rest of it. I think it's obvious it's got to have something to do with your defence mechanics being affected in some way.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be almost like anti-guard.
Yeah.
So you can't have a defence roll, or you don't roll shields, or
maybe you just don't get. Yeah,
there's no dodge really on there.
No, true.
So
it's true.
I wonder whether it might tie into the man trap thing. So there's two monsters with man trap things. I wonder whether they might be like, you hold them down so they don't get a.
And in the Arena Mortis cards, we did see cards that did things like you get this, but you don't get to roll defense dice anymore.
So maybe it's just a little
token.
To
do with that, maybe we don't know.
I mean, this in some ways is the best time for any gamer when we've got a new game, but we don't know any of the stuff does.
We can just be excited to talk about rubbish about the move and the charge count is all the same. The glory count is the same. Turn count is the same. Pretty much. The fighter cards are obviously the new style. We can sort of make out a few of the stats. We can see the Stormcaster single shield, their move 3 and things like that.
It looks like 3 hammers.
It's not massive.
It's like a base attack of 3 hammers, 2 damage on that.
Yeah, one of them looks on the boss. Pretty tidy.
I'm sure that is the boss. Interestingly, where does it say whether they're a wizard? Because we think they're a wizard from one of the other shots from the video.
That is true.
But I can't see
the normal wizard sign on them.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah. There's a symbol there actually on the little. I'm pointing. You can't see where I'm pointing, but on the right hand side of the card, there are some symbols. I wonder if that says.
Yeah, it could be
a wizard.
Yeah, but that might be it. That might be it. And there might be 2 symbols there, one for the leader and one for the wizard.
Yeah.
I did notice that the bird also has what looks like a couple of symbols next to it. So maybe there's a new mechanic coming into the game to symbolise fighters that can't take upgrades or hold objectives. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Rather than having that spiel on every card, this fighter cannot take any weapon upgrades and cannot hold objective. Blah blah blah. Maybe they'll just stick a symbol and stick a little bit in the rule book.
Yeah, you totally can't see this, but I'm always wondering where that says 3.
Who knows? 3 caster fighter. Oh, that'd be interesting.
Wondering that. I love that model with the lamp.
Yeah, it is very cool.
Now, one other really exciting thing. Well, I say really exciting, but
it's all really exciting.
Is the dotted lines on those hexes?
What is that?
What is that? Because it's not just the dotted lines, is it? Because that's got like a white kind of almost looks like a razor blade or something in the middle. It's got some sort of vortexy thing.
There's something going on.
That hex is the same. Yeah. So that obviously denotes something.
And it's only on one of the 2 boards. The other board doesn't have any dotted hexes on there.
Doesn't.
We thought maybe it was lethal. but we can see a lethal hex right in the middle, so it's not that. The one between the two dotted hexes might be a lethal.
That could be a placed
tile.
lethal.
Yeah,
well,
it could be a placed lethal.
Intriguingly.
Ooh.
Well, I wonder if that's before the objectives are flipped. I don't know, because the objective 5 is flipped
as well. So there's 3 tokens on there. Well, this could be where they gave a set to somebody and said, set a board up and take a picture, because in one of the promo shots there's a glory counter on the board. Like, why is that on there?
Right. Yeah.
But so far there are these 3 tiles that we're not really sure on. We suspect they're lethals though. Place lethals of some
unless
kind.
They're the shadowy things, but yes.
Well, yeah, maybe they move around. Maybe they scatter around the board, and if you are on them, then you can't be targeted by anything unless they're adjacent to you. Maybe
intriguing,
but that still doesn't tell me what those dotted hex things are.
No,
they're driving me mad. I need to know what those are.
Yeah. So
what do you think?
I'm intrigued by that. Somebody said they thought they might be different levels of build. I'm not sure about that.
I'm not convinced. Or maybe those dotted hexes are the ones which mean you can't be targeted. Or can only be hit when you're adjacent or something.
That would make more sense to me, because they're like blocked hexes but not blocked hexes.
Possibly,
because they're dotted lines.
The thing that makes me think that it might not be that is that one has 2, the other board doesn't have any.
Oh, so you'd always pick that one.
Exactly, because then you could just stand on them and then you'd be impervious.
That's a really good point. So, what are they?
We don't know what they are.
But I'm now you've intrigued me, because what are they that you might put 2 on one board and not have any on another board? Yeah, that is well.
What are they? Yeah. What are they?
Yeah,
let us know in the comments below. Yeah. What do you think it is?
Yeah, let us know.
Yes. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of other things from the video. We kind of poured over the video a little bit. I've got to thank John Grant. John Grant of John Grant Miniatures blog. Yeah. He did a little piece on this as well, and he noticed in the video, before I'd seen it, but he noticed that there are only 308 cards mentioned.
That's a big
which
drop.
Is a big cut and a really welcome move if that is the case, because we have talked a lot about there are too many cards in Warhammer Underworlds, and in fact all those people who said no to me, there are now 200 less.
There's 200 less.
Who's laughing now? I'm not saying anything else.
But I mean, when you think about it, we're going to assume you can still get 8 warbands, right? 8 warbands divided, 300 cards divided by 8 warbands is not obviously.
That's too hard for me.
It's less than 60 each. That's all I can say up front.
It's less than 50.
So it's less than 50 even. So we know that much. We know it's less than 50. Is it less than 40?
320 would be 40. So yes,
it's less than 40. It's less than 40. Assuming we get 8 warbands. Now I'm assuming they're going to stick with the 8 warband thing.
I would assume so, especially if they're going to have this Rivals format. If you're going to have a new format which takes place for the new warband, you kind of need a decent number.
Yeah, you want a good selection there. So there's that.
But wouldn't it be funny if it was just 2 warbands and there's 150 cards each?
But other than that, there's not really much else that we've seen. If you have spotted something, do post it below. And obviously, if you're watching this weeks later and GW's released more stuff since, then we'll try and cover that in another video.
Definitely.
But if you do spot anything else, do put it in the comments below. It's hard to use the placement of any tokens or anything to give you any indication, because very often it means nothing. I did wonder for a little while if those dotted hexes were more blocked hexes or something, but we can see blocked hexes, we can see lethal hexes, so we know it's none of those things. So that one is the conundrum at the minute that's got me really intrigued.
Yeah, there's not too much text on the Stormcast cards. There seems to be quite a lot on those Kruleboyz. I'm just looking over there.
There's a lot,
there's like an Inspire condition, and then a big chunk, and then right down the bottom there's a big white chunk of text. So that's
but that big white chunk of text is an upgrade.
That's an upgrade. I've just realised it's an upgrade. But
there does still seem to be a fair lump of text on all of the cards. I mean, the bird card has quite a bit of text on it again. So I don't think we're going to see the back of complex fighters anytime soon.
Probably not.
But overall, I'm loving the fact that we're in a new realm. I think that's going to help massively. If they'd have kept it in Beastgrave and kept the Chasm aesthetic, I would really be struggling.
It's funny, that would never have occurred to me, and we didn't talk about it at all in our video. That would never have occurred to me as a thing that I wanted to change. But now they've changed it, I think, this is, I would say it's a breath of fresh air, but it's like a splash of water on the face.
Oh, how refreshing.
Exactly, yeah.
The salty sea breeze. But just having that change of colour and definition just makes it feel very new again.
Yeah, I suppose it is almost like that mini reboot that we were talking about, in the sense that it is just different.
The fact there's only 300 odd cards in there, that tells me there is some big change going on. The fact that we've got that rival format, that's a big change which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
The only other things I think that we were really moaning about were warband complexity, which maybe might still be here. It's hard to tell exactly. Some of the rules bloat, and again, it's hard to tell how much of that's still there until we can see the rules.
But the fact that there aren't tokens suggests that's come down.
Maybe they've got rid of that reliance on tokens.
Sort of interested to see how that's going to interplay. I mean, they're also trying to answer questions. How is primacy going to be impacted? Because there isn't a primacy token in this set.
That's a really good thing. I spotted that.
And so, poor old orcs. If the primacy card cycles out for everything else, they're going to be a bit.
They're going to have to rely on their faction-specific ones, won't they? Really?
They have got some quite good ones, but
unless GW going back to the whole thing of what other seasons?
Well, yeah. So I have a feeling Pete and I will be playing this game with the great box art that Pete's just put up on the screen, and I do really like the box. I think it's one of the better.
I think this is one of the best box arts they've done so far.
Certainly from the Stormcast ones, it's better, and I think I really like it.
I think that it's just another level up of detail, whereas previous ones they tried to be a bit. I mean, I'm literally looking at it right now. The previous ones they were a bit less detailed, and they felt a bit stylized, but this one just feels a lot more detailed.
I think the lamp gives it a nice sort of focal point as well. A bit of OSL on the lamp. It's pretty cool.
It does, yeah. Overall, I think that it does kind of look like a lot of the problems that I had do seem to have been addressed in this version. One thing we hadn't talked about is what else we think we're going to get in the box.
Oh, yes.
So as this is, not in the box, right, but in the season. So we know that we're going to be in the realm of Ulgu.
Yeah.
So it's the Shadow Realm run by
Morgoth.
Morgoth.
No, it's not Morgoth. It's not Morgoth. That's a totally different universe.
Oh my god, what's his name now?
Malarian, yeah. So make sure you take your tablets.
Make sure you get your Malarian jabs before you go out there. But obviously it's Malarian's digs, and when we go round there, he's got his Umbraneth.
The Umbraneth, yes.
So maybe we might get a Shadow Elf Umbraneth warband, which
I reckon that's gone straight to the top of my list. I had Chaos Dwarves at the top of my list. And Chaos Dwarves, I guess, could still come out. They lurk in the shadows. And
interestingly, Ulgu is one of the realms where supposedly Chaos didn't get too much of a foothold in.
Oh, so maybe they would only have little feet, wouldn't it? So that would fit.
True. But I wonder if we'll get any kind of Chaos in this version.
No, maybe not. Will we get more Ideneth?
Maybe. I mean, it's in the water. They do like that, from what I've been told.
Yeah.
So Ideneth,
and then
I mean, maybe this is where they decide they're not going to feature any of the 4 big powers. Maybe they'll bring a Skaven warband in that will tunnel up.
Watery Skaven.
Watery Skaven. They could be like scuba divers.
The ones that have deserted the ship.
And they'd be like, maybe they'd be like Skaven crossed with otters.
Scotters. In kilts.
But maybe there's going to be something, because Skaven are always drilling into places they shouldn't be, so maybe they've got some underwater device to get them there or something like that. I mean,
warpstone
everywhere. But they're after
underwater Jezzails.
Not very good though. But I mean, what other warbands do you all think we're going to get? I'm really looking forward to the fact that I reckon it's a dead cert we're going to get Umbraneth this time round.
I would stake your life on it.
Oh. There's obviously the Tool Orcs and the Skinny Stormcast out there as well. I know they're not everybody's cup of tea, and I personally have never been a massive fan of Stormcast, but these ones,
I think they look good. I feel like I'm not going to get me Cities of Sigmar now. Probably that's going to happen. I don't really know enough about the lore. I mean, I feel like there ought to be some squelchy things to go with the water, but
you'd think so.
I just don't know where that is. I mean, there's the Ideneth here. I can't see you getting carried on Overlords.
No. The only other thing was to do with the elves is Lumineth. Are we going to get some more cow elves?
Well, lots of people said they didn't want that.
I don't want cow elves, but
possibly
it's going to be hard for them to veer away from that.
Maybe we'll get something entirely new.
Maybe we'll get
underwater sort of
a bit like Canothi, but water based.
Yeah.
So Kasloppy.
Who knows? Kasploshy.
Let us know in the comments below what you would like to see or what you're hoping to see. Now we know where we're at and what we're going to be venturing into.
Yes.
I think we've pretty much analysed this to death now. I don't think there's anything else we could talk about.
We have definitely Yeah. So yeah, let us know what you think. We will every time Games Workshop a bit of news. We'll try and get together and do a bit of
chew the fat over it.
Games Workshop. If you could release anything about these games on a Thursday, that would be brilliant. Because Pete and I meet on a Thursday evening. When you do it on a Tuesday, it's just a right nightmare.
It is an absolute pain.
So yeah, Thursdays, please.
But I think everything they've shown off about it so far, which admittedly isn't much, but there's still a lot to digest and to over-examine and overthinking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how it's going to set the tone for the going forward. But when Chasm was announced, I was like, Chasm, that's a really rubbish name, and now I've got used to it. But Harrowdeep is just a really good name.
It follows the right principle.
Now I know
it's got the naming
why the
principle
guy
again.
from the Cunning Crew. Basically, why they're called that, which is frankly a rubbish name, is because they used up all the money on brainstorming for Harrowdeep.
Brainstorming Harrowdeep.
Yeah.
I mean, Harrowdeep follows the. It doesn't quite follow the two syllable thing, because obviously it's not two syllables. It's Harrowdeep.
Yeah.
But it has the single syllable at the end. I think that's what makes it.
I suppose really it's just Chasm by another name, isn't it? Harrow. Deep chasm, yeah,
a little bit,
yeah.
But
it just seems to work.
It just works better because you've got Shade Spire, Night Vault, and then you've got Beast Grave. Then you've got Dire Chasm. I think 3 Harrowdeep is that's where you, at most 3 syllables.
Yeah,
they'll go down to 1 from the next one. Just be and that'll be it.
So that's enough of our ridiculous pontification. Let us know what you think, and like I say, we'll be following closely what's happening. I'm guessing we're looking at seeing this at the end of September. Maybe it's not very far away.
I do feel a little bit of a hypocrite when not 2 weeks ago we were sitting there going, Underworlds, it's rubbish, and now I'm kind of sitting there going, ooh. But you know what?
That is the hobby.
That is
part of the hobby, isn't it?
That is what GW do.
And I do feel that. I mean, I think some of our criticisms still stand. We still need an FAQ, except we don't need an FAQ. We personally don't need an FAQ if we're not going to play Championship anymore and we're just going to get on with rivals and play Harrowdeep. We don't need an FAQ, so that's fine. Yeah, but I still think this is great, and there's lots of information about it, but the Games Workshop, they're not out of the woods yet for us.
They're not. We're not completely back on side yet, but we're willing to reserve judgment now. And I will say, this has definitely piqued my interest again.
Definitely.
So what about you at home? Are you now pulled? Did you think you were out and now they pulled you back in? Or are you looking at this thinking, you know what, I am actually done. I have no compunction.
Yeah, I know a couple of people are feeling a bit like that still. I reckon a lot of people might be waiting to see what the 3rd and 4th warband are before they decide whether they pull the trigger. Possibly. And there will be people out there I know who are desperate for primacy FAQs to be
Mm.
before they.
Because maybe that's why they never released the primacy FAQ, because they know they weren't going to be supporting it after that season.
Maybe. I just can't, because they said Championship's still going to be going, and I know technically if they did completely get rid of everything else, Championship could still keep going. Yeah. But I just feel like they're going to have to keep playing with Chasm.
But it is,
So we do need to resolve that problem. Yeah. But that's nothing to do with Harrowdeep, so we'll stop talking about it. No, and thank you very much for listening.
Yes, hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you do stick in the comments down below what you think that hex is that we just can't work out what it does. Yeah. What warbands do you think we're going to get? What are you looking forward to? What are you hoping for? And are you back in it now? Have they pulled you back in
or out? Are you in the water or out of the water?
Well, are you in the deep end or the shallow end?
Oh.
So we'll see you soon, maybe in Harrowdeep.
Bye. Hot water or cold water?
Tepid.
Yeah.